This video is going to be the way that Vince McMahon likes Raw, SmackDown, and NXT at the moment. All about Charlotte Flair. This video is all talk about Charlotte Flair. It's covering two stories. Obviously, the big one that you see in the title, Charlotte Flair raising the idea, the notion, the goal she has almost of pursuing and winning a men's championship in WWE. And additionally, some comments Triple H made about Charlotte Flair losing the NXT Women's Championship at TakeOver being part of a much bigger storyline and bigger picture going forward in NXT. So there's definitely some stuff to talk about with Charlotte Flair in this video. Without further ado, I'm just going to get into this. So basically, Charlotte Flair was talking with Sportskeeda as like an interview, and she stated that she wants to go after a men's title, but then she kind of waved that off a little bit by saying that in the big picture, it might not be that much of a possibility. So she says this is the main line, is something that I want to pursue, but... So then she goes on to say that, women are successful, women are empowered at the moment. She's proud of how, women and the revolution has come along. And she's basically kind of talking about Tessa Blanchard winning the TNA Impact Wrestling World Championship at Hard to Kill in January. That's basically what she was talking about. But really, it's this main line, quote, it's something that I want to pursue. Okay. As we know, WWE loves their Charlotte Flair agenda. They really do. Charlotte Flair on Raw, NXT, SmackDown. I've made the analogy countless times now. It's like the Big Show of 2006 on Raw, ECW, and SmackDown, okay? This Charlotte agenda, we've seen it tenfold. She won the NXT Women's Championship for literally no obvious reason. She beat Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania and did what in NXT when she was champion? She squashed a couple of random women, like your Kaden Carters, those types, just squashing random NXT women. She beat Mia Yim, and then she lost the belt, and now, in between that, she did some champion versus champion matches, and now she lost the title, and she wants to pursue, or it's something she thinks about, she wants to pursue winning a men's championship. Now, a lot of people who are going to argue against my point of view in this video are going to come with the stance that, Tessa Blanchard did it, so why shouldn't Charlotte Flair? And that's a very valid argument. There's not too much I can say against that, but I'll refute it with this. Okay, Tessa Blanchard winning the TNA Impact World Championship. One, it's TNA Impact, okay? I'm sorry to TNA fans, but that promotion is about as dead as it comes. They needed absolutely anything they could to get relevancy, attention, viewership, anything. They needed anything they can get. So having Tessa Blanchard, a 5'4" woman, win the Men's World Championship, it was just something that it was just going to happen to try and give TNA some relevancy. But then you see, Impact Wrestling. But then you see WWE. And for a company which we know, we've been established for basically years now, ever since about 2015, we've been ingrained to know that the women's division in WWE is all about the Queen, quote-unquote, Charlotte Flair. The women's division is all about Charlotte, and we know that Vince loves Charlotte Flair. Vince loves, as Charlotte Flair said in her promo on SmackDown a few weeks ago, Vince loves his 5'10", blonde, athletic queen, okay? Vince loves that. And to see the resume that Charlotte's compiled, so let's just rattle off Charlotte's resume off the top of my head. So she hasn't won the women's tag titles, but she's won the NXT women's title twice, the SmackDown women's title a few times, the Raw women's title a bunch of times. She's won the Divas title and was the Divas champion for about 8 months before they retired the thing. She was the Royal Rumble winner from this year. She's been a part of the first ever Hell in a Cell match, the first ever, take your pick, X, Y, and Z women's matches. She's been the first ever for everything, alright? And then you're left with this. She hasn't won a men's championship yet, and given where this company is in 2020, given how shameless this company is in its push for Charlotte Flair, in its agenda for Charlotte Flair, given how blatant it is that this company, in their women's fraternity, is revolving everything they do around bolstering the resume of Charlotte Flair, so that in 5 years' time, you're going to look back at Charlotte Flair's career she'll still be wrestling in 5-10 years, but you can look back on her accolades and career in 5 years and think, oh, she's irrefutably the greatest women's wrestler ever. So, because WWE compiled her resume with all these accolades, which just giving her random title reigns for like a week, a month, 2 months, it's meaningless. It's just giving her title reigns to try and build up her reign so she gets to 17 and she'll overtake her daddy, and then it'll be this big dramatic moment. Even though everyone with more than 2 brain cells rubbed together knows that, well, this is kind of a farce, because it's so obvious, it's been obvious for years now what they've been trying to do. Like, when Charlotte Flair inevitably becomes a 17-time champion, it'll be so obvious. Like, and then that leads me back to the women's title, okay? Sorry, Charlotte winning a men's title, sorry. Charlotte winning a men's championship. Can I, as the elitist, see this happening? God, yeah, I can. 100% they're going to do this. Do I think it should happen? Hell, God, no. But in WWE in the year 2020, would this surprise me? God, no. God, no, this wouldn't. This would be... I just expect this from them. At this point, if you guys watch my content, you kind of have the hunch that I honestly expect the worst from WWE, because more often than not, they actually do the worst. Like, granted, it's stuff like, I'm going to make this analogy, Charlotte Flair winning a men's championship, I'd compare the same way to Goldberg beating The Fiend in Saudi Arabia. It's something that no one wanted to see outside of a couple of people we didn't need to see, but through, corporate, through management, through the political agenda, we're going to end up seeing it because this is WWE. We're going to end up seeing Charlotte Flair winning a men's world champion. Oh, not a world championship. If it's a world championship, then oh my God. But can we see Charlotte Flair beating Apollo Crews to win the United States Championship? I can. I can see Charlotte Flair beating Apollo Crews, can't you? You can picture this, can't you? Charlotte Flair beating Apollo Crews to win the United States Championship. You can picture this, alright? And the only thing that really prevents this is the fact that WWE is openly against intergender wrestling. But then again, kind of hypocritical when it's the same company who were desperate to have Nia Jax bury Dean Ambrose when Ambrose was on his way out of the company in 2019. Alright? And people are going to bring up, oh, China. China did it. And once again, China was more muscular and more dominant looking than literally most of the guys at the time. China was the ninth wonder of the world. China was a dominant beast, alright? That was China's thing. And then people compare once again to Tessa Blanchard. The Tessa thing is a pretty dumb decision, her winning the title. In hindsight, yes. The fact that this 5'4" woman is the champion when you have all these, giant, ripped, muscular blokes, but the woman, the woman's the champion. It's just, your suspension of disbelief is so just jaded. Like, that's not to come off sexist at all, but I mean, let's be real. You've got a wrestling promotion in Impact with a bunch of these jacked up, ripped dudes, but just some random, just average-sized woman is the champion. Like, it doesn't make sense. So, then there's Charlotte Flair once again. Can I see her winning the title? Yes. Will they do it? Probably. Will they do this by the end of 2020? I can honestly see it. Given how much they're pushing Charlotte down your throat, I can honestly see it. So, that's the whole Charlotte winning a men's championship situation. I can see Charlotte winning the United States Championship easily. Can you see it? How little this company cares for the US title? I can see them doing that. So, that's the whole thing with Charlotte and the winning a men's title. Then, with reference to the NXT TakeOver In Your House main event, where Charlotte lost the triple threat match to Io Shirai, even though Io pinned Rhea. So, during a post-takeover conference call, Triple H was asked about the finish of the NXT women's title match, specifically Charlotte Flair's future in NXT. He stated that Charlotte Flair not taking the pinfall had nothing to do with her last name. In fact, that is quote-unquote garbage if you asked him. This was the start of something that will hopefully make much more sense down the line. I'm going to repeat that. This, as in Charlotte, not being pinned and whatnot in the main event of TakeOver, was the start of something that will hopefully make much more sense months down the line. I'll read the full quote from Triple H here. The finish was done the way it was done tonight for a very specific reason. So, hold the quote for a second. The finish was done the way it was done in the TakeOver In Your House main event for a very specific reason. Interesting. Okay, so we'll go on with Triple H now. Some people will read into it and say, geez, Charlotte can't even get beat by... And then he halts the quote. Then he says, now to me that whole rhetoric with her last name and stuff, and her being Charlotte Flair and her dad and her name and all that stuff is garbage. She works as hard as anybody I've ever seen. She's a great performer. She deserves everything she's ever gotten and has. This was done for very specific reasons, for storytelling purposes. I'm going to unquote here. This was done for very specific reasons, for storytelling purposes. In other words, Charlotte Flair ain't done with NXT, not yet by a long shot. Charlotte Flair is going to be NXT for the next few months. Charlotte Flair is going to be chasing the NXT Women's Championship, or if she's not, then there's going to be a bigger picture where, in other words, it means more Charlotte Flair, which, as the Sports and Wrestling Rundown loves to do, change the channel whenever Charlotte Flair comes on the TV. So I'll finish off the Triple H quote. Triple H says, if we get to tell the story the way we want to over the next coming months, I think 3 or 4 months from now, hopefully you'll go, I know exactly why they did the finish that they did. Okay. I'll read that last line one more time. Okay. If we get to tell the story the way we want to over the next coming months, I think 3 or 4 months from now, hopefully you'll go, I know exactly why they did the finish the way that they did. Now, I'm not going to blast them for stuff they haven't done. That would make no sense and be hypocritical and just dumb. I'm not going to blast them for a storyline they haven't done yet. But at the same time, what that is implying, straight up, is the fact that we're going to see, basically, Charlotte versus Io Shirai for the title, and that program at the next TakeOver, more than likely. And if not, I don't know what he means by that. What could you possibly mean by Charlotte not getting pinned and them having future plans for a storyline? That just so blatantly, to me, comes off as Charlotte's going to face Io, and more than likely Charlotte will beat Io. Or what they mean is Charlotte will lose clean to Io in a one-on-one match at the next TakeOver. That's the other thing I can interpret. And even then, what that means is that we're going to get Charlotte Flair on NXT even more. Okay, NXT, at the end of the day, as much as it doesn't feel like it on the USA Network at the moment, it's still developmental at the end of the day. The whole point of NXT, especially in the women's fraternity in the division, is to show off the NXT women and make them seem like future stars, them seem like big talents. But when you have Charlotte Flair in that division, beating every single one of them, trying to show why she's the queen, and by beating Mia Yim and Aaliyah and Kaden Carter and Chelsea Gray, all these women. So when you have Charlotte Flair beating them all, it just, what's the point? And when Triple H says, I think 3 or 4 months from now, hopefully you'll go, I know exactly why they did that finish that they did, that implies, once again, Charlotte's going to stay in NXT, which means by Charlotte staying in NXT, we're going to get several more months of Charlotte Flair beating everyone in the division, making a division which is full of women that need, the prosperity, they need to be getting wins, and having them lose to Charlotte Flair in 9-minute good matches, that's not going to do it, alright? Having the Charlotte Flair Invitational where she beats every woman in NXT, that's a waste of time, alright? It's as big a waste of time as her winning a men's championship, alright? Have Charlotte Flair on one brand and have her be a star on one brand, alright? You don't need to have her on 2 brands, 3 brands, have her squashing everyone in NXT, have her winning a men's title, alright? Know your limitations with Charlotte Flair. Is she a great athlete? Yes. A great professional wrestler? Yes. Does she need to have, 12 championship reigns, and inevitably she's going to have 24 championship reigns? No. Man, I don't get really angry often, and I'm not even really angry about this. It's just frustrating. It really is, because granted, I'm not even really going to watch NXT over the next few months, because I'm just so over NXT. I just really am. But really, to think that it's just going to be Charlotte beating more people on the road to her versus probably Io Shirai to take over, and then Io's going to probably pin her then, and everyone's going to rejoice and say, well, Charlotte in NXT was a success. She's beaten everyone in the division but Io Shirai, so it's a success. Just no. Charlotte could have just stayed on Raw or move over to SmackDown or something. But no. Instead, we're just going to get this. So, yeah, that's been the video. Hopefully you've enjoyed. If you have, be sure to like, comment, and sub. What do you guys think of this whole situation? Charlotte Flair being in NXT for a few more months, beating more people in a 3 to 4 month long storyline or something. Meanwhile, she's, talked about how she wants to win a men's championship. Just a lot of Charlotte Flair in this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and sub. You guys know the drill. See ya.